Hello, this is Rabbi Dr. Juan Marcos Berjona Gutierrez, and today we're continuing our trek through the Tanakh, surveying passages that describe Sheol, the netherworld, the abode of the dead, in the thinking of ancient Israel. And today we're looking at Sheol as the description of Sheol as a land. And we see this in Sefer Iyov in chapter 10, verses 20 through 22. And we read, Chalomeat Yamai, וחדל ושיט ממני ואב ליגה מעט. And then we continue and it says, בטרם אלך ולא אשוב אל ארץ חושך וצלמוות. And I highlighted this because Salmavet is the word that we find in Mizmor David, Psalm 23, when it says the psalmist, or David HaMelech, says that he, even though he walks through the valley of darkest shadow, or of the shadow of death, that's the same word that's used. And then Eretz Efata kemo ofel salmavet. Again, this word velo sedarim, there is no order. It's without order. Vetofa kemo ofel. So we read, "Are not my days few? Cease then, and let me alone, that I might take comfort a little." This, of course, is Job speaking in the midst of his suffering. "Before I go, whence I shall not return, even to the land of darkness and of the shadow of death. Of thick darkness as darkness itself, a land of the shadow of death without any order, and where the light is as darkness." Now, it's a very gloomy place, of course, according to the description of Job. It's interesting, I think, that it's nevertheless described as a land. Now, we can take that as metaphorical, but right now we're just interested in what the text says. In previous videos, we saw that the land of Sheol, or the place of Sheol, is described as being under, and it's implied it's under the earth. So now it's under the earth, but it's also this land. And I think here it's clear that the individual that goes there does not return. And so this is sort of the depiction that is given here. And also this idea of velo sedarim, there's chaos there, there's no order. And then light, it says kemo ofel, it's like the darkness. So darkness is ubiquitous. And this is the description that's given. Now, for those of you who have been watching these videos, you'll probably remember that this passage actually was found in the very first video. I was quoting from a section from a novel that I wrote. I don't typically write novels, but I've been working on a series called The Chronicles of Canaan, and it takes place in ancient Israel during the time of Shaul, of Saul, and David. And what I did is I tried to sort of describe the ancient Canaanite and Israelite approaches to death, to worship, of course, in terms of the Pesilim, idols, and things of this nature, to give it a cultural context for the novel. And what I did is I drew from this passage because I think it exemplifies that idea of Sheol at this time. Now, in subsequent videos, we'll continue our trek and we'll look at other descriptions that are given of Sheol. And in many cases, they seem somewhat conflicting or contradictory because different passages in different books seem to emphasize different elements. And then as we make our way, as we progress, we'll eventually get to the literature of the Second Temple period beyond the biblical text, which will include the pseudepigrapha, the scrolls of Qumran, the Apocrypha, and then eventually into the Mishnah itself, where we sort of will cap that as the high point for the course, or at least the stopping point. And then perhaps in the future, we'll continue with a review of Jewish views of the afterlife in the medieval period.